All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Racha HaKodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you I say shalom. This is the brother Yeshaya coming at you again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And Lord willing, this be an edifying video. And pretty much I'm going to entitle this Prepare for a Nuclear War. Okay, because as we've seen, I think it was like earlier, I think it was like last week, Donald Trump was calling for to pretty much um, continue testing nuclear weapons, right? And I got a couple articles I want to read and touch on and bring some precepts out. But just showing you, we're living in these times, man, where everything is building up to that grand finale, right? Everything is building up for the return of our Lord. Prophecy is speaking, right? Prophecy, is knocking on everybody's door. Shit, at this point, is kicking down doors, man, right? Especially with the whole ICE thing, you know. But just showing you, man, the times that we're in, we're getting closer and closer to that inevitable end, right? And the inevitable fall of America, which we understand the fall of America is going to be by the way of fire, by the way of these ICBM missiles, right? So this, them preparing and testing all these things, this is just, steps to their fall, right? Pursuant to the scriptures. But let's read this. This is from defensenews.com. It says experts full nuclear weapons tests would backfire on U.S. I'm gonna read a little bit on this, and we'll get the next article. But it says resuming full testing of nuclear weapons, as President Donald Trump called for last week, would unnecessarily, would be unnecessarily, would be unnecessary, costly, undermine non-proliferation efforts, and empower the nation's adversaries to use their own tests as intimidation, experts told Defense News. You see? So, and one thing that comes to mind is that precept. Trying to figure out where it's at. I believe it's in Isaiah 14. Yeah, in Isaiah 14 and verse 9, it says, "Hail from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth." Who are these? This is talking about the nations, right? The nations' leaders. But it says, "It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, Art thou become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us?" Right? So when you read this back, this in this article, it says resuming full testing of nuclear weapons, as President Donald Trump called for last week, would be unnecessary, costly, undermine non-proliferation efforts, and empower the nation's adversary to use their own tests as intimidation. Right. So you have the other nations, saying, or that like I said in that precept, Isaiah 14 and what was it, verse 9, right? Or verse 10, or thou become weak as we, or thou become like unto us. Because all of these nations, now have nuclear capacity. Well, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of them do. A lot of America's enemies have nuclear capacity. Russia has nuclear capacity, right? China has nuclear capacity, and that nuclear weapon is ultimately that great equalizer that allows these nations to, stand up and say that, because at one point during after World War II, America was pretty much feared by these nations because of that atom bomb that they dropped, or them two atom bombs that they dropped over there in Japan, right? So they had, so-called the bigger stick. But now we're seeing these other nations, they have that stick as well. And, they're showing it in front of Esau's face, like, yo, we got it too. You know, a lot of Esau's strong arm tactics, or I'm saying, like these tactics that they use to muscle somebody or muscle a nation into their will, that don't work no more. Especially now for these nations that have nuclear capacity, nuclear capability. You see? So Esau doing this, the scriptures talk about how, he puffs at his enemies, right? How Esau puffs at his enemies, right? And this is a sign of him doing it, testing his nuclear missiles. But at the same time, these nations ain't having it no more. So they're puffing back at him, right? Like, yo, we got it too, you know. So at the end, this is all going to lead to, as it happened before, that Cold War. So this is right now we're like in a Cold War, but soon this is going to escalate even more and more further to where it's going to be full scale, all out war, man. And eventually it's going to turn nuclear, right? With the return of our Lord. And in that process, America is going to be destroyed. But let me read a little bit more. It says Trump's unexpected announcement, which came in the form of an October 29th social media post, surprised many nuclear specialists and sparked concerns that the United States may end its 33-year moratorium on nuclear weapons testing. Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis, Salakia. Trump posted on True Social. So it's an arms race, essentially. You know, just like we had during the Cold War, we're having it now. You know, every country is trying to show off their capabilities, their advancements, right, and their muscle. Because this is essentially what it is. This is their firepower, their muscle, man, trying to flex on the next country that we're superior. But it says that process will begin immediately, he wrote. And he ain't lying, because I found this article. Where's it at? Right here. This is from space.com. It says U.S. military launches unarmed nuclear missile from Vandenberg Space Force Base. Oh, Space Force Base. Salakia. But it says the unarmed Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM, launched from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. It says, I think that might be a picture of that missile being launched. But it says the U.S. military test launched an unarmed intercontinental ballistic missile in a routine exercise to maintain the readiness of its nuclear arsenal. The test flight, known as Glory Trip 254, saw the unarmed Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile launched from Vandenberg Space Force at 1:35 a.m. Pacific Time on Wednesday, November 5th. Like all ICBMs, the missile briefly left Earth's atmosphere during flight. So it's just breaking down, the whole process, or breaking down the kilometers, how much it flew, and all this and that, But just showing you that Donald Trump ain't playing, right? But even with that news that of him letting people know that we're going to start testing again, you have Putin, right, talking about preparing for a test as well. So let me read this. This is from Axios, but it says Putin orders nuclear testing preparations after Trump's surprise shift. So it says Russian President Vladimir Putin orders officials Wednesday to submit proposals to possibly resume nuclear tests day after President Trump's surprise directive for the U.S. to end its moratorium on the practice. It says why it matters. It says Russia boasts the world's biggest nuclear stockpile and has increasingly threatened to use it as its war in Ukraine has dragged on. Right? The scriptures talk about wars and rumors of wars, right? So there's a lot of wars, there's a lot of rumors of wars that's going on right now. But we know that this is ultimately going to drag into the Middle East. But it says the White House and State Department did not immediately respond to Axios' request for comment on Putin's directive. It says driving the news. Putin reaffirms that the U.S. Conducted. Putin reaffirms that if the U.S. conducted such tests, Russia would respond. Multiple outlets reported Wednesday. He instructed the foreign defense ministries to collect additional information and make proposals over the possible start of nuclear weapons tests. So even there, trying to follow along America, right? Because they see America doing this great shift into, a warlike state. Even Donald Trump called the Department of Defense now the Department of War. So just showing you that they're shifting towards a war. Uh, 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 um, we're already in a warlike economy, so things are shifting towards war, right? As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get some precepts. We'll start off with Ecclesiastes 3. I'm gonna start at the top and I'm gonna skip down, but it says Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season and a time of purpose, and a time to every purpose under heaven, right? So it's a time and purpose for everything, right? And now is the time for war, as we're gonna read. Let me see, where's it at? Right, so it says verse 8 right here. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. You see? So we're in a time of war. We're entering into the time of war. We're in a time of war, right? But yet you still have Jake out here thinking about, peace and safety, thinking that things is going to be okay, things is going to be all right. But what does the scriptures say, right? They say peace and safety, but sudden destruction cometh upon them. You had Donald Trump talk about earlier, I think it was like a month ago or 2 months ago, talk about how there will be no World War III. See, but that's the pride in this man, thinking that he can upset prophecy, not knowing that he's forwarding prophecy. You can't do nothing against the truth before the truth, right? There's nothing that can resist the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. So him saying that, is really, the pride in him. But we understand that things is going to lead to this point of them testing these missiles, them, making these steps eventually to lead up to that Third World War, right? And that's in Revelation 11, I think. 11. Bear with me. Right here, 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Right? And best believe it's coming quickly. People had this mindset of, oh, there ain't never going to be a World War III, or nuclear missiles ain't going to be used. They've been saying this for a while. I'm talking about doubters, people that doubt the prophets. They're like, nah, this ain't going to happen. Nah, I can't see that happening. Things haven't gotten to that point yet. But hey, we're seeing things lead up to that point now. Things is heading quickly, fastly towards that third woe, that third world war, right? And best believe nuclear missiles is going to be used, right? That's why they're preparing all this. All these things wasn't created for no reason. Let's get this. Isaiah 54 and verse 16. It says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals. What's a smith? Like a blacksmith, somebody that creates weapons, right? So it says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals, that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. So ultimately, the Most High put it in the minds of these scientists, what's it called, Project Manhattan or whatever, to go and build the atom bomb, then eventually, make the technological advancements to build up to the hydrogen bomb and then the nuclear bomb, or whatever, I don't really know the terminology to that. But now you have what you have, them nuclear missiles that are like, I don't even know how many times more powerful than the atom bomb, like 10, 20 times more bigger, more powerful. So just imagine the atom bomb, how it left that devastation in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, but times 10 or times 20. And bear in mind, that's for one nuclear warhead. Now you have nuclear missiles that can carry multiple warheads, right? And just rain hell on whatever nation, right? But in particularly America is going to be hit by those. But let me see. Let me go to Isaiah 9 and verse 5. Because like I said, these missiles will be used. They're not just going to be sitting there looking pretty, or it ain't going to be like the Planet of the Apes where they have what they call it, the Alpha and Omega bomb underground, and they're just looking at it and worshiping it. No, this shit is going to be used, man. But this is Isaiah 9 and verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Right. And, we break this down all the time. How in ancient times, you had sword and shield, bow and arrow, chariots. So when you see a battle in the field, all you hear is, all kinds of clanking of swords, people screaming, yelling, you know what I'm saying? Bones crunching, all kinds of noises, man. Confused noise, right? But it says, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. So this next war, this battle, is going to be through ICBM missiles. This is how this next war is going to be fought. Of course, you're going to have boots on the ground. You're going to have, the little show that they're going to have. But the ultimate end of this war is going to be through ICBM missiles, through that fire, right? Which is going to usher in the kingdom of heaven. This next war is going to decimate America. Is going to remove a lot of these nations out of power. Shit, Yahweh Shah, when he returns, he's going to take away, the military of these nations. He's going to destroy them all, right? That's why the scripture says, that he came and he had many crowns, but that's just showing the fact that he just took down every single ruler on the planet Earth. And then the ICBM missiles is going to hit, and then it's going to be a nuclear fallout to where the whole Earth is going to be, so damn toxic and deadly because of the fallout that's going to be in the air. A lot of people are going to die. There's going to be a lot of hell, man. I'm going to put it like that. Which is going to be the end of, like I said, of this world, and it's going to usher in the new world, right? The kingdom of heaven. But let me see. Let's get this, because it's even in the scriptures. We brought this out at camp last week, and I felt like bringing it out because the Lord has these precepts, certain precepts on here for a reason. And this one right here, Zechariah 14 and 12, just shows you that the Most High is not talking about no, no solar wind or no other shit, like these scientists be saying. No, this is talking about ICBM missiles coming and hitting and pelleting America, pelleting parts of the earth, right? So this is Zechariah 14 and 12, and this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away with their, while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. So what's the picture that the Most High is painting here? He's painting a picture of nuclear destruction, right? A nuclear bomb hitting, and then seeing the result or watching the result of that bomb going off. You have examples, brothers always mention it, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, right? That new Fallout TV series, it showed that. And you know what they say about TV shows and movies, right? This is all predictive programming. So they're letting you know what is going to happen. So let me get one last one, and I'm going to close it out. 2 Peter 3 in verse 10. It says, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. So that's going to be the outcome of this current world, right? This current rulership. This is how this place is going to go down. By fire. Such great intense heat to where the elements is going to melt. There's going to be no remembrance of this place. This place is going to be an utter wasteland, man. It's going to be a desert by the time, the smoke settles and everything is, calmed down. All you're going to see is just a wasteland, a desert, right? But this is what's coming. This is prophecy, man. This is what this is leading up to, right? Every day that goes by, that every day we get closer to this inevitable end, right? And Kahala Yahweh Shemi Awashai for allowing us to see the fall of our enemy, man. All right. But anyway, that was pretty much it, though. I pray this lesson was edifying. I'm going to go ahead and close it out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Racha Kodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth or taught me this truth and ruled well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Until the next time, I'm going to say Shalom and Kwame Shalom.